what's up,
Hey,
brother? How are you doing today?
well, man, how
How's
you
everything?
are? Uh,
Alrighty. Why is your camera on the side?
I turned it the other way around.
Okay, yeah, better nice, better now, better now. Oh,
Oh, okay.
how have you been? It's been a long time since I've seen you. It's been a long time since we catch up.
Indeed, brother. Well, I'm good. I'm fending for the betterment.
That's very good. That's very good.
That's the ultimate.
It's very good to see you. I'm not gonna lie.
My pleasure, man. I like your head warmer. Pretty
Oh, thank.
basic and simple.
Thank you, thank you. It's a very like since the last time I've been in Africa, I haven't get to catch up with you, and today I want to catch up with you. I want to get to know how's your work schedule been.
Exactly, man.
How's your work schedule been?
Let's do it. Say it again.
How's your work schedule? How's it been?
Oh well, it's been a roller coaster of emotions, bittersweet, I would say. But holistically, it's been a wonderful one, I must tell. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Alright, alright. It's definitely nice to see you. I'm not gonna lie. And apart from that,
My
we're just trying to.
pleasure, man.
I want to get to know who's Mubarak, being the tallest man in Africa, being the tallest model in Africa, doing it. What got you started? Like, why do you start this?
Uh, oh well, can you hear me?
Of
Hello?
course, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, so I can hear you, but your video is actually paused. I don't know. I can hear you, but then your video is paused.
My video
Okay,
is
so
paused.
I think we should just delve right into it. We should just dive right into it. Oh yeah, I think it's perfect now.
Okay, okay, fine, fine.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, going back to your first question of who Bakare Mubarak is. Basically, well, I like to talk about myself a lot, and
Very good.
even in as much as I don't like to blow my own trumpet, I still like to talk a little bit about myself.
Very good.
And I'll start by saying Bakary Mubarak is an African avant-garde. I think I am one of the few young African uh, who are actually truly patriotic, who are pretty much invested in seeing Africa a great place again, like we've always yearned. And of course, I, in recent time, I co-founded Expedition 54. But basically, I would say my background is modeling. I happen to be the tallest model in Sub-Saharan Africa,
Very good.
and really that came by in 2020. At the time, I was about the same. 2016, I beg your pardon. I was about the same height with the tallest professional model at the time. And I kept on that record by being about growing a little bit taller at about 6'8", 6'9", in 2 years after, making me the same height with the tallest professional model at the time as well. In fact, the current one, still the current tallest professional model in the world at the time. So yeah, that's my background. But basically, I've been able to leverage on my unique status as a model to promote the African culture, whilst incorporating art, as well as other social cultural activities and business, entrepreneurship, and as well as tourism. So in the past years, I've been able to work with quite a number of entities, both national, locally and internationally. Been able to work as advocates, for a few subject matters under some other entities as well, including some diaspora entities. Most recently, I was bestowed the honor as a Goodwill Ambassador to the World Fashion Exhibition, which team happens to be the Africa is Now. The World Fashion Exhibition actually preaches sustainable fashion, across the world, and they are represented in about 70 countries around the world. By so doing, in recent time, their theme for the year is Africa is Now. And one of their major focal points is actually kicking against child mortality on the African continent, as well as women empowerment. So, by virtue of my endeavor with them, my company, Expedition 54, my co-founded company, received the World Fashion Exhibition Nigerian franchise. And we hope to tentatively produce here in Nigeria by August, thereabout. And we definitely hope to host designers from over 60 countries around the world.
Wow.
If that does justice to the introduction.
Let's just say this before we go on. I hope whoever's in the chat watching this, coming here and dropping by, we can get something going with what this brother got going on. But even deeper question: when do you realize, damn, I'm getting tall. Like I'm not average. I'm not average tall person. Like what age do you realize that?
Well, I must confess, I think this was around. So this was while I was in my first year in the senior secondary school. That's what, high school, basically, as we call it here, senior secondary school. I was in my first year at the time. I was in my SS1. And so people tell me I'm pretty tall, right? I don't totally believe them, but until I tend to see someone who is so tall, or someone that seems to me as very tall, and I come close to them, and behold, I am taller than they are. Then I realized I was really, really tall in the real sense of it. So yeah, that was how I started getting to know that I'm pretty tall. And funny enough, that still happens, a couple of times. Even in recent time, I tend to see people and I think they're really tall. I almost think they're taller than myself. And when I get closer to them, I realize I am still pretty tall, taller than they are, So, I got to realize that I was, not the average tall.
So you can say around like when you're like 15 or 16, that's when you realize you're getting tall.
Thereabouts, yeah.
So
Thereabout, at about that age. Mm-hmm.
So if you were never in Africa, if you're not born in Africa, do you think you would have gone down the route of modeling or you would have gone down the route of basketball?
Oh, well, so this is something I really have a reservation for, because funny enough, so many people tend to ask me if I play basketball before they even ask what my name is, It's so bizarre like that. But I think the reservation I have about that is the fact that I think it is stereotypic that people automatically think tall people should or must play basketball, And that's in fact one of the things that I am trying to preach, with my own embodiment, to say to people, you don't necessarily have to play basketball, But of course, going by the stereotype, I think I might be a basketballer or I might be pursuing a career in that space, if I were in the West. But of course, I decided to choose otherwise, when I started having a mind of my own, truth be told, I always liked basketball growing up. I used to have a very nice ball that I take to school at the time, and I played to an extent, even up until my third year in university. I had a coach who was coaching me and whatnot, but when I had a mind of my own, I got to realize that we can be great doing other things besides playing basketball. And we could be iconic doing quite a number of other things, that appeals to us, or that resonates with our essence as human, rather than just play basketball. Yeah.
Fair enough. it's good to hear that. Like, because most people in America or whatever and around the world, if you don't play basketball but you talk, they will say, "Oh, you're wasting your height" or something like that. But sometimes it's
You
not really
know,
about. Yeah, but sometimes it's not really about, oh, you have to play basketball because you're tall. You just have to be.
exactly.
There's more purpose to you just being tall. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, bro. I agree with you 100%. 100%.
Probably you want to
And
be
I feel the
one.
same way. And that's why I think, like I said earlier, that it is stereotypic to always think that everybody must play basketball because they're tall, you know?
Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. But a lot of people always thought, you know what? Oh, you have to play basketball. So your expedition company, what do you what started? Like, why do you start it? Like, what get you to start it? Like,
So, you see, I have always been very passionate about unification. So when I mean unification, I mean Africans on the continent and Africans in the diaspora like yourself.
yeah,
You know, I've always been very passionate about this connection, about this integration,
yeah,
right? And this comes from a very profound place, you know, a place where I know for a fact that this is going to constitute a lot of change, a lot of progress, you know, and this goes both ways, you know, here on the African continent, in the motherland, and as well over there as well, because quite a lot of Africans in the diaspora have been marginalized over time, you
yeah,
know. But that unity, that unification would help you trace yourself, refine, you know, be able to understand who you truly are, you know, rather than the entire bamboozled information that's been given to us, you know, and as well as truly understand the essence of our existence, you know, and as well, you know, or most importantly, the essence of the economical viability of this endeavor, basically. So this was actually one of the things that actually drive or that birthed Expedition 54. You know, we thought the harm that's been done to our reputation as Africans is a lot. You know, a lot of people just because, and this is basically solely because of the propaganda. I can tell you, I beg your pardon, I can tell you 100%, you know, categorically that 80% of everything you hear about Africa is just, they're basically lies. It's just birthed out of propaganda. I tell you this, so many things are not accurate about our continent, you know, and this, as a matter of fact, is regarded the cradle of humanity. Africa is the cradle of humanity. This is where humanity started, proven over and over again, right? And we still have the genuineness, you know, and the world actually, if you'll agree with me, the world actually derives inspiration from us, right
for
from
sure.
time, since inception, from the music to the cuisine to our mythologies, to everything, you know, to our style, our fashion, and the likes. So, what am I trying to say in essence is we thought it was pertinent at this point in time to show that there is more to the African continent and the people of Africa, right? And even our brothers and sisters in the diaspora than the slavery narrative that we've been always that the world emphasize on, right? And one of those things is business, right? Business endeavor, right? Rather than the West actually always emphasizing how much they needed to help us or how much they have so-called help us, you know, with our own resources, you know, even though it's hiding in plain sight. It is very pertinent that we actually show that we have so much resources on the African continent and we can take on business endeavor, you know, with other parts of the world. So really, in a nutshell, the vanguard of our endeavor at Expedition 54 is creating that platform
Yeah.
to integrate and connect African businesses with other businesses around the world. And we have worked on a tech product to actually drive this process as well. But ultimately, we are emphasizing on African diaspora businesses, connecting African diaspora businesses with other businesses around Africa, basically.
Very good, very good. So, what would you call your strength? Like you yourself, for kids that are watching at home right now, for kids that are watching around the world, what would you call as your greatest strength as a professional?
Well, say one of my greatest strength is the essence of understanding the power of our minds, right?
Oof, that's very powerful.
And the fact that I have now been able to, over time, worked on having a mind of my own.
Yeah.
Uh, I just got off the call with a friend of mine, who we've been having conversations. We engage about this subject matters a lot, right? And I said something. I said, whatever happens in the physical must have happened in the metaphysical realm, right? So, as a matter of
Elongate a little bit.
fact,
Elongate a little bit on that.
say it again.
You mind expanding a little bit on that?
Of course, and I'll just give you a scenario, right? So, have you ever, at any point in time, um, for instance, probably you just finished eating, right?
Yeah.
And then you have a plate right on your dining table, and then you intend to take it to the kitchen, put it in the sink and wash it, right? But you actually totally forgot, but you think that you have actually done that. Does that
Oh,
ever happen to you?
that
Does
always
it
happens a
happen to
lot.
you?
That happens a lot.
Exactly. So that you have actually executed that
Wow.
in the metaphysical realm.
That's
So
amazing.
really, whatever happens in the physical must have happened in the metaphysical realm. Before we came here today to have this conversation, there was a premeditated thought
Oh, for sure, for
about this
sure,
conversation.
for sure,
Even before you spoke to me about it, before you invited me over for it,
for
right?
sure.
We had a picture of this moment, this actual moment that we're actually now living in at the time.
It's
We had
amazing.
this picture somewhere in our head, and this has now manifested. So that's what I mean by whatever happens in the physical must have happened in the metaphysical realm.
Fair enough. So, do you believe in picking your moments? So, fair enough. Do you believe in picking your moments, or do you let the moments just be? Like you let the moments roll, or do you believe in picking your moments?
So there are two ways to it. There are two ways to this. This is a very profound question. I think I love that question a lot. But I'll be glad if you permit me to explain a little bit more. Right? There are two ways to it, and I
Yeah.
think the first thing is that I am of the opinion that it is pertinent that we choose a course, right? That we actually, as a human, we are so powerful. An average human has so much energy that, if converted into kinetic energy, can power an entire city,
Yeah.
right? So that's how much energy that we possess. That's how much frequency we've got as humans, right? And we cannot afford to actually let life just happen to us. We
For sure.
must direct life however we want. We must chart a course for ourselves. We must chart a course for ourselves. So could you give me a moment? I think my homie is here, and I'd like to just open the door very quickly. Just a
Yeah,
moment.
it's okay. It's okay. Just take a moment. It's alright. Man, chat, it's been a really, really wonderful talk, and I'm learning a lot about life. I'm still young, and I'm still trying to learn. I'm still trying to meet people. I'm still trying to hang out with people, and I'm learning a lot
Oh
about
yeah,
life.
pardon me.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm
Pardon
just
me
speaking to my
for
chat.
the break in transmission.
No, it's alright. I'm just speaking to my chat. I'm speaking to my chat. I'm telling them how I feel about this moment. Because like in
All
Spanish
right.
people always say for the moment that you pick your moment, the star align, and everything feels amazing. Like it just feels like it's meant to be, and it's not like
Absolutely.
sometimes it's not like it's even like it's not like it's meant to be. It's because you pick your moment, you execute. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Exactly. I agree with you 100%. And it's high time we begin to understand how much integral part of the universe we are as humans, as an entity, right? And the fact that we don't just fall from the skies. We have The DNA is actually composed of information, strands of so much data passed down generations, right? So these things didn't just happen, by chance. Basically, it is very pertinent that we choose a course, right? And we followed through. We have that liberty. God Almighty gave us so much liberty, so much power, to be in control, right? So some people have thought about this technology, and that's the reason why it is useful to us today, right? Some people thought about this at a certain point in time. Some people thought about the World Wide Web, in which we leverage on for this kind of communication, right? These are impossible things, but they were made possible by some visionaries, some people who were seeing that in their head, in their mind, but they were able to manifest that. So this takes it goes beyond just having a feeble mind or being feeble-minded. It takes you to actually take charge and drive. You should always know that you are in the driving seat or the driver's seat. You must drive your own life, basically.
Amazing.
Right.
That's a big word right there. You must feel like you're in control of your life. You can't just let life happen to you. Very amazing. Very amazing. It's nice to hear all these things because, hey, I'm still young and I'm still trying to grow in a different part of life, and I'm still exploring my options about life, because obviously, I'm still a young guy. But yeah, apart from that, what does a day in your life look like? So right now, a proper day, like a busy day and a day without being busy. So I know you're probably very, very busy, man, and obviously, I want to know what your schedule is. I want to know, living your shoes.
Also, well, in honesty, basically, I do quite a number of things, as you're confirmed. In fact, quite a number of things that the public do not know. With regards to or in the entrepreneurship space. Like I said earlier, I'm an entrepreneur. I do quite a number of things. Aside co-founding a company called Expedition 54. So I'll just give you a snippet, or would I say, a backstory about my typical day. So when I wake up in the morning, I try as much as possible. In recent time, most recently, I started eating really clean. I try as much as possible to eat very clean because, like they say, you are what you eat. So in the morning when I wake up, I try to have at least two bulbs of garlic, thereabouts, because it helps so well with blood digestion, and it helps you, it helps the heart as well. Garlic and ginger, these are two very potent, root plants, basically, that one could actually administer every other day. So I try to chew some garlic or to brew it as a tea, drink up, and as well, drink a lot of water very early in the morning. And at about 9:30 WAT in Nigeria, 9 a.m. WAT thereabouts. Within that window, I touch base with my partner, who we co-founded my company together. Because we got quite a number of projects at hand at the time. One of which I mentioned earlier. The World Fashion Exhibition, which we were organizing to produce at the time, and by so doing, we touched base, to talk about all the task of the day, basically, and I endeavor, I being the co-founder of the company and acting in the capacity as a chief executive officer of the company as well. Aside that, I have a few other endeavors as well. I run a certain business called African Market Hub. We sell a few handcrafted African paraphernalia. We sell canvas prints. As well, on the side, I tend to broker art as well. I do quite a number of activities in my capacity as a model as well. So yeah, I just work on all of the tasks of the day, and usually I always have my schedules ahead, you know.
So you have to.
In fact, a week ahead, 2 weeks ahead, I try as much as possible to have my schedules. So in the past few weeks, I was out of town for a few official assignments, towards some of our projects at Expedition 54. As well, I also had to visit the family in Kwara State. I had to visit my parents just a couple days ago, and here I am, having this conversation. And this is also an integral part of my life, because quite a number of lessons that we have to do at Expedition 54, some could be remote, because of the fact that we have conversations with international individuals and entities as well. So by virtue of that, I do some virtual meetings like this if I'm not doing physical meetings or executing activities physically.
Very good. So with this all said and done, if you have to, like right now, I will play this or that question. If you have to move out of Nigeria, where would you move to?
Say it again.
If you have to move, like any other country around the world or in Africa, like if you have to choose another place as home in Africa, what would you have to choose to be home in Africa? Like I see you travel.
Oh well, I think I really like Rwanda. Rwanda is actually a very interesting place. Pretty eco-friendly, and Rwanda is one of the neatest countries in the world.
Wow.
Contrary to popular opinion, yes, they won't tell you this in the mainstream media, but Rwanda is one of the neatest countries in the world. Currently, the neatest country in Africa at the time. So yeah, I'd say Rwanda, as well as Zanzibar is a fantastic place as well. Maldives is a great place as well. There's so many beautiful places in Africa, and you begin to wonder where you want to stay. It's very difficult to actually choose. So many beautiful places in Africa as a whole. We have 54 beautiful countries on the African continent. Contrary to how some people think Africa is a country. So when you go to Zanzibar, for instance, you would find waters that are as blue as the skies. I'm not even capping. It's that beautiful. It's that beautiful. So I'd say it's difficult, but like I said earlier, Rwanda isn't a bad choice.
Amazing.
Right, and because of its proximity to a couple of other places as well. Yeah.
So with Rwanda being very nice places and all these amazing things in Africa, for me, if I had to choose a place to stay, I think it's South Africa. But because of the hype about it and all these things about it, obviously, because it's a nice place. But with Maldives, where is Maldives close to? Because I really don't actually know that. I'm gonna be American. I'm gonna learn myself. I'm gonna put myself out there right now. I don't know where Maldives is, but I know about Maldives. Where's Maldives? If I'm pronouncing it.
So Maldives is actually one of the Indian Ocean islands. Here in Africa.
Really? So what country is it next to? Like what country is
it
it
again?
Close to? What country is it close to?
Okay, like I said, there are quite a number of Indian Ocean islands. It's really not far from. There's a place called. There's another island called Madagascar.
Yeah.
There is. Yeah. So there's also Mauritania. There's also a few other countries pretty close, like Zanzibar, as well as Gambia, as well as the to the east. To the east is actually Zanzibar, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, and the likes. And of course, to the west, the likes of Nigeria, the likes of Ghana, the likes of Ivory Coast, and the likes. Yeah.
Of course. So one day, right now, Mubarak is done working everything. What would people know you for? What do you want people to know you for and speak about you about? Is a question. When Mubarak is also
Well,
not there.
I want to be one of the greatest forces, that brought about an African Renaissance, in all ramifications, business wise, consciousness as well as, the African Renaissance in a nutshell. Like I said, I am an African avant-garde. I am a visionary, so by virtue of that, I want to be one of the pioneers of the new Africa, that we yearn for. That wouldn't happen if until we become as conscious as we should be about all of these subject matters, about where we came from, where we are at the time, and where we are going, So I want to be one of those pioneers.
Before you go, I'll say something. I know, like, obviously, I like the way you talk about yourself. But one thing I don't want you to do no more is call yourself a god, because you don't want to give yourself a characteristics of God, because but obviously I understand how passionate about your work, because obviously being a god is just something very big, and for some people they'll take it opposite way.
Pardon me, I'd like to explain that. So an avant-garde, right, has a meaning, and the meaning of an avant-garde is someone who is a revolutionary. Someone who brings about new ideas, someone who is a futurist, someone who pioneers new ideas, new, very impactful innovation. That is what an avant-garde is.
See,
yeah.
I'm sorry, and I hold my hands up for that.
That's fine. That's fine. No offense taken. That's fine. That's fine.
What's it called? If you right now, like with your expedition, you say you want to work with other companies around the world. Give us a little insight. What companies are you working with?
So at the time, like I said to you earlier, we're currently working with the World Fashion Exhibition. That is currently situated around 70 countries in the world already. We have worked with the Nigerian Scholars in Germany Association. We've also worked with SIPE. That's actually a multinational non-for-profit sponsored by the U.S. Congress as well. We have worked with we've worked with quite a number of entities. Yeah.
So if you have to work with any brand around the world, like if you have to obviously partner with a brand around the world, what brand will you go for and why?
Oh, really? So like I said earlier, before now, we are very passionate about creating opportunities for businesses on the African continent to connect and integrate with other businesses, right? But I also emphasized that one of our focal points, or would I say one of the things we emphasize, is to actually connect African businesses with African diaspora businesses. So I'd say there are quite a number of African diaspora businesses out there, that are fantastic. When you look at what Rihanna is doing, Fenty, one of the most successful product lines, when it comes to cosmetics, in the cosmetic space. That's they are now in Africa. They have now integrated into Africa. They're in a few countries in Africa. Yeah, they're now currently in a few countries in Africa, including Nigeria. So really, I don't want to be to exhibit any form of favoritism, but I'd say we are very open to working with any entity that is impactful, of course, to human endeavor. I'll put it like that.
I always say something about this.
Yeah.
As human, you have something that you like deep down. I would love to work with this company. If you have to pick, because you don't know who's watching right now. If you have to pick one company,
I agree.
If you have to pick one company that you could work with right now, based on your ideas and your information that you gather, which company would you choose? I would like you to choose because who knows? This video we do it right now might go viral. Who knows?
Right, I agree with you. I agree with you. And I'd say I would really like to work with. Okay, I'll mention a couple. I'll mention a couple. Right, I would really like to work with, or we would rather really like to work with. Would like to work with a company such as Google.
Google. That's a very
Yeah,
good one.
yeah. And because Google is actually a company, or would I say a corporation, that has cracked a lot around data, around human data, by virtue of all of their products. I'd also like to work with a company like, I'd also like to work with a company like, say, one of this top fashion brands like LVMH. They
They
have
do.
always drawn inspiration from African fashion, because at Expedition 54 we are focusing on some African we're focusing on some projects that are actually export oriented around the fashion space,
Yeah.
fabric, majorly African fabrics. So I'll say to you that an LVMH, because they have always drawn inspiration from the African continent, even though they don't give credit to the African continent. I think it's going to be a whole new down to do it right with them.
Uh, since they don't
Right.
give credit to African continent, what makes you want to work with them? Because obviously if they don't give credit to Africa, they might want to work on the. I know you're a big name, obviously, and you get what you deserve. But the thing is, for every other country that they take, what's it called from? That they take, what's it called? Like the culture from the clothing from the cooking from whatever. What would you want to advise them to do?
So to be honest with you, it's been a thing that has been in existence for so long.
Yeah.
Like I said to you, the world draws inspiration from the African continent, from
Yeah.
every single thing. Look at the you are in current you're currently in the United States,
Yep.
right? You could tell that the Washington obelisk is an inspiration from it's an inspiration from the whole Egyptian empire, basically. You've seen how you've gone. I can tell you've been to a few museums, and you've seen how many of our artifacts, our treasures of our ancestors, has been taken to these museums around the world, right? So really, talk about several other things, several other knowledge. I'll tell you something today. I'll give you a takeaway, right, or a take home, right? The
Sure.
current existential battery technology, right,
Yeah.
is actually associated with cobalt. It's made with cobalt, right? The highest deposit of cobalt is on the African continent, Democratic Republic of Congo to be precise.
Yeah.
We have uranium here. We have gold here. All of the gold that there is in the world is right here, right? But they would come and tell you that the United Kingdom has the highest gold reserves. Where did they get it from?
Africa, I'm guessing.
Where? Africa. They stolen it from us. They literally stole it. You get my point. There is more statues. There is more statues of lions and lioness in the United Kingdom than there is actual lions and lioness on the African continent. This is where they all get the inspirations from.
Amazing.
Right?
Amazing.
So really, it has always been like that. They don't give enough credit. The world doesn't give enough credit. This is where you find the best of the best coffee products in the world, right? I
Amazing.
mean, the raw materials, the raw products, right? This is where you find them. This is where you find cocoa. You know, talk about Nigeria, our country, talk about Ivory Coast, talk about Ghana. But guess what? They ship these things back they take it away and ship it back to us. And they sell it for so much, so like they sell it for 100 times more. So I think this has to do with having more information as regards how global or international dynamics works and international relationships, you know, or would I say bilateral relationships between nations, right? So what happens to an African country, you know, having consensus or reaching a consensus with any other country in the world to come to Africa and put a plant, a chocolate plant here on the African continent? It could be in Nigeria, it could be in Ghana, it could be in Ivory Coast. And on no occasion would you ship any of our raw materials. You must actually make them here. You put a plant here. Employ Africans that are living on the continent to do the work and then export it anywhere else in the world. That's an approach. That's an approach that works.
So far, it seems like Africa don't need them. They need us. So why do we make it seem like they are on top of the world when we don't need them? What's the situation behind it? Like, why?
Could you say that again?
Why do we feel like it seems so far with what I'm learning, what I'm hearing from people, what I'm hearing every day about Africa, and obviously I'm African too. Why do we as Africans feel like we need them? Because it seems like we don't need them. We can make everything that we need. We're sufficient. We're self-sufficient in Africa. This is how I see it.
I agree with you.
Self-sufficient.
I agree with you a lot. But there is a whole lot of structures that's been put in place to actually hinder this progress. And one of the greatest of these structures is the educational system. It's the fraud. It's a big fraud. It's a big scam, right? The educational system currently happening around the world. It was put in place to actually distort your mind. It was put in place to actually bamboozle you. It was put in place to actually indoctrinate you rather than educate you or educate us, as I would like to say, right? Because you see, we are being taught what to think and not how to think. So we are being taught to think we are not enough.
Wow.
And guess what? The world is a consumerist society, right? And you must sell something. So some people even sell lies because that's all they've got, right? So it is the same structure that allows you to actually sell a makeup to a lady, because you have to make sure that she learns or thinks that she's not enough. It is only when she accepts and conceives that idea that she's not enough the way she is with her bare face until she applies that. Do you get the idea?
Yeah, but why does it, like, the idea come from of her not being enough? Do you think we African thinks we're not enough, or do you think they thought us out?
Let me give you this. Let me give you this real life situation, right? I'm sure you've always heard about saving. Save, please save for rainy days, save for this, save for that. That's one of the greatest scams. And I'll tell you who that benefits: the banking system. Right? The banking system. And I'll tell you this: if you do not save your money, how would their business or their endeavor revolve around on a day-to-day basis? How? They use your money to make a lot of money. They use your money to control the world. They use your money to actually corporations control the world. Where do they get this funding? Where do they get this finances? From you and I. Because we save. We have been bamboozled to think saving is what's going to save us, right? And on the flip side, the real essence of this is to actually earn more. It's not about saving more. It's about earning more. And I'll put this into perspective for you, right? If you earn $5,000, that's a good payment in the United States. You'll agree with me.
Like over what time though? A monthly?
Every month. Monthly, yes.
That's a good pay.
That's a good payment, right? In the United States of today. But guess what? It's probably going to take you 30 years to buy a Ferrari.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what it's all about.
So basically, it now brings you to what I said just a moment ago. It's really not about saving, because you have to save all of that for about 35 years to get a Ferrari. So really, it's not. Say it again.
I said this is how I always think. I always think in the world, there's people who have Ferrari, Lamborghini, name the cars, name whatever car you want to know. There's people who have these things, and they're not cheap, they're expensive. And some people don't make that much money of a car, like it's worth the car. They don't make that much, the car's worth a year. So I'm curious how these people can be able to afford all these cars with that, like, you know what I'm saying? And somebody can't make that much in a year. Some people will never drive a Ferrari in their whole life. And I'm curious. That's my purpose. That's my purpose. I want to know how are these people making that money. So I'm trying to make that money.
So basically, like they say, information make the world revolve around.
Yeah.
You know, right? So basically, I think there are two bases. Right? Your network and your information. Yeah. And in fact, I'd say it all revolves around your network, because that would even bring you more information. That constitutes your horizon. And I have a saying that wherever you are at the time and wherever you want to be is literally as a result of the people you've met and the people that's met you.
For sure.
Right? And I'll put this into perspective. The more information you have, the more powerful you become.
Oh yeah.
Right? I tell you something Donald J. Trump did. Donald J. Trump literally buried his wife on his golf course. And you know what that saves him? It saves him a lot of tax. Because why? Wherever you have a cemetery, it's supposed to be tax-free. Cemeteries don't pay taxes to the government. So he literally buried his wife on his golf course. And that's a huge multi-million-dollar property.
Wow.
So that's a hack. Yeah. So another thing that people tend to do is a lot of people go buy blings and diamonds and this and that, and they pay a lot of heavy taxes on that, right?
Yeah.
But guess what? If you are smart enough and you have so much information, you get to realize that if you actually make any of this expensive jewelry of your company logo or your brand logo, you are covered. You don't have to pay as much as someone who has just gone to put their name. I don't know if you get my point.
I get it. I have a brand too, and I'm working on it. And this is my brand right here. And I'm thinking, one day I'll probably, obviously I want to put into perspective of everything I do on my brand payments. So basically, the payment won't come out of my pocket, it will come out of my brand's pocket, so I can pay off the taxes.
Literally. So I'm sure you heard about tax evasion.
Oh yeah.
Legal.
Everybody.
Exactly. So there are so many mechanisms. But I would say to you that, and I want you to take this away today, and everybody that's watching, right? Our networks.
1 second. Someone's right up. Hold on. Give me a second.
Right.
Give me a second. Alright. Alright. Back to the conversation.
Yeah, so I was going to say something, and I said I want you to take this away, right? Yeah. This is very important. Yeah. This is one of the secrets, right, that we all need to know as young people, right? Yeah. You see, one of the most, I would say the most advanced technology in the world is the human mechanism, right? And I'll say to you, the most resourceful capital in the world is the human capital, right? So as such, it brings me to what I said earlier, that wherever you want to be in the world and wherever you are right now is basically as a result of the people you've met and the people that's met you. Come to think of it, my mother never met my father. I would probably not be having this conversation today.
Definitely.
Exactly. So really, it is important that we work endlessly on our networks. It is very important. It is very pertinent. And it is very instrumental to our progress and to our success.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave you with that.
That's definitely one thing. A big word, a really really big word, and I appreciate everything. You told me a lot about the world. You told me a lot about our people, how we can make things happen, and about taxes. You know how just people just go buy taxes. Like it's so mind blowing. Because I watched one of Donald Trump's what's it called? Is the election speech before he got elected in like a couple years ago, and it was saying that he admitted on live TV that I don't pay taxes. And so they asked him, obviously, which is the people in the line. He said, because you know the way I do it, and if you do the same thing, if you try and block me, you block a lot of people around you that makes money off doing this stuff. So it's like, it's people, it's about people who you know. Because if you know them people, like, I think it's all about knowing more about the secret. Because if you know some people and they don't put you on, it's a different. But if they put you on into their little life and how they go about this, you get to know. Because right now, Donald Trump, I feel like if he goes down for not paying taxes, there will be a lot of rich million people that goes down for not paying taxes, and it's just money makes the world move. In my opinion, money makes the world move. If you have money and you know people, you get around. You even get away with things that you shouldn't get away with.
And you know why? There's a lot of lacuna in law. So there's such thing called lacuna. That's the gap. Loopholes, basically. But in all, holistically, it all starts from the mind. It all starts from the mind.
Fair enough. My one question before I let you go for the day, and you have an amazing nice day. Since you've been doing all this, what is your highest experience, like the peak of your experience, the best experience, or what's your lowest experience? Like, where do you feel like people mistreat you, or people, you know? Because obviously in life you have to have people who treat you nice to the peak and people who treat you bad. And how does that change your life?
Oh, so in honesty, I'll just say to you, the best is still to come. Let me put it like that. The best is still to come. We're still striving for betterment. You know, that's the ultimate. You know, and I'll say to you, the pursuit, the joy, right, of success is actually not at the end of the tunnel. It is in the pursuit of happiness. Sorry, I mean happiness actually doesn't reside at the top. It is actually in the pursuit of success. I don't know if I'm making sense. Happiness actually lies in the pursuit, right?
It does.
I'm sure at a point in time you have had a certain you've had something on your bucket list that you intend to check, right?
Yeah.
Tell me how you feel after you've checked it, and a day after you've checked it. You feel normal again.
Yeah, you feel accomplished, but at the moment you feel accomplished.
Exactly. You feel accomplished, but you feel normal again. But put you in a 7-star hotel, like the best hotel in the world there is in the world at the moment. It takes you only 5 days to feel normal again.
Yeah, but
you feel me?
Having that experience, that's called standard.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm going somewhere. I agree with you, but I was trying to go somewhere, right? What I'm trying to say, in essence, right, is that however it is, no matter where you get to, you feel normal again, right? Right? But where the genuine happiness lies is the pursuit of that. It's the gradual day-to-day process that leads you to that point, that builds you up to that pedestal or to that pinnacle, not the pinnacle itself. The little day-to-day success.
You know what? Like obviously because you're a very successful young man, and I'm gonna say it this way. What's it called? If you like, you can say these type of things. For people who have never been there, they will never agree with you. And I'm saying because they've never been there. It's never a feeling that they had. But until they have that feeling. Because I watched a movie not long ago. And it's about just like so basically it's a metaphor word like matter. So people are in this matter and they play video game, and obviously when they get to the finish line, they just disappear. Like the character disappear. So I'm asking, is it the point of the word? Is it for us to be successful or for us to chase the feeling of being successful? Is the question. Because when you successful and you get to that top, what else? That's the question. What else?
Exactly the point. Now you're getting it right. What else? That's the question. But I'll tell you something. Human wants became or becomes at a point in time. It has always been insatiable, right? But the truth about success, because success is also relative. For some people, where you are at the moment is their own definition of success. Do you agree with me?
Fair enough. Good.
Exactly. So where you are currently is some people's definition of success, right? At a point in time in your life, you were looking forward to this position you were, as you are currently. I beg your pardon.
Amazing.
Right?
Of course.
Exactly. So really, the moment you get into that part or into that moment, you begin to feel natural again. You begin to look for the next thing, right? And I'll play you a real life situation or real life scenario, right? You've seen people buy fast cars and buy this and buy that, and the next thing they want to do is buy they now look forward to the next or the latest fast cars, right? And when they have more money, when they become a little more successful, they tend to want to go for a private jet, right?
Yeah.
Right? Now, when they have more money, they tend to want to go for a new version of a private jet, right?
Fair enough.
And what happens when they have even more money? They tend to want to go for a yacht. You feel me? Yeah.
That's deep. That's a deep
So
talk.
really, it's in the pursuit. The real happiness is in the pursuit. I'll tell you a story or backstory. And this was from one of the richest women in the world, Oprah Winfrey, that you and I know, right? She was asked a question, a very profound question. She was asked what holiday or what Christmas holiday was the most happiest Christmas holiday for her in her life. She didn't mention 2 years ago when she was already rich. She mentioned years ago when she had nothing, bro.
Why though?
Of course, she explained. I can't remember categorically what she explained, but she actually explained experience, right? It was the profoundness in the experience that brought about that depth of happiness, right? Trust me. Now, let's put this into perspective. You already have $100,000 in the bank, right? And I give you just $1,000. You wouldn't feel you'd appreciate it because, of course, you're not an ingrate, right? But guess what? Now, look at it on the flip side. I am giving someone who has never touched $1,000 in their life, a homeless person, $1,000. Do you think you want to quantify, or do you think this happiness, if being able to if quantifiable, do you think it is the same? Do you think it is going to be balanced?
Probably not.
Exactly not. So really, and that person who's homeless, right? And you're just giving them $1,000. It means they just checked a milestone in their lives. They've touched or they've had access to their first $1,000. right?
Yeah.
And they now look forward to another.
So for
They look
you,
forward to another $1,000. So, and it's about the same thing with
yeah,
you and I, right?
true.
So, if the day you make your first dollar, sorry, the day you make your first million, right? You actually start automatically, you start expediting actions to make the second, to make the third, to make the fourth, to make the fifth. Do you get the idea? So
Yeah,
really, it's non-satiable.
yeah,
It's a urge that is natural and it is non-satiable. And really, it is where the true joy and happiness lies is in the pursuit. As you get successful a step at a time, a day at a time, knowing that you are thriving, right? Knowing that your endeavor, the work you put in place is paying off. That is where you get your most genuine happiness from, not at the pinnacle itself.
damn. So for you,
Yeah.
right now, it just changed a lot of perspective about life on my side. I know more about life, but I'm trying to ask. So for you, in your own words, and I don't want nothing to influence it. What's the point of life?
Really, I'd say the utmost essence of human existence, right,
Yeah,
is, I would say, problem solving. The moment you're able to solve your problem and you're able to solve problems of people around you, that makes you worthy. That's the whole essence of human existence because we were born into problem, right?
yeah,
So we must be problem solving oriented. So if there was no single reason, if there was no certain problem you were trying to solve with this kind of endeavor, right, with this show, you wouldn't start doing it in the first place. Or you thought it was pertinent to connect the dots between the African continental and the diaspora, right? And to also inspire young people around the world. And that's one of the reasons why we're having this problem. That's one of the reasons we're having this conversation in a
for sure,
nutshell. Am I right?
for sure, for sure, for sure.
So really, it shows you are problem solving oriented, right? There was actually a fiasco of having conversations with your loved ones who are miles away from you. And some people decided to do what? You know what? We need to have something called a cell phone that we could make calls with,
Fair enough.
right? Some people think it's going to cost you a lot of time to actually ride on the back of a camel or on the back of a horse to Nigeria, crossing the Atlantic,
Yeah,
right? Before you get here. And they thought it was pertinent to create something called an aeroplane or an aircraft to fly and save you time. And guess what? That's one of the greatest inventions because that saves you even more time. And because time is the currency of life. So these are people who are problem oriented, so who are problem solving oriented, right? So the moment you're able to solve your own immediate problem,
yeah,
the moment you're able to find your niche, the moment you're able to find your purpose,
yeah.
you'll be able to solve other people's problem as well. And that right there is the essence of human existence.
Good. Amazing. Amazing
Yeah.
words.
Yes.
Before I let you go, because I know I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you're a busy man and you got so much going on. What is the message you're giving for young people out there today? People who's watching, people from back home, people around the world. What's the message you're giving?
I'd say to young people around the world that we need to learn. I think the world is becoming a mediocre world where we think it is fine to be a mediocre, right? But I tell you this, there's so much ongoing in the world, and I can categorically tell you that virtually everything you think you know is a lie. So we need to all strive to actually seek genuine answers to genuine questions, right? We need to know truly what is going on in the world so we could emancipate ourselves largely and be able to chart the right course, right? And be able to know who we are. Like they say, man, know thyself. That is very pertinent. A lot of people don't even know who they are in the first place,
Fair enough.
right? And
By yourself, child.
unfortunately, that is happening to a lot of our African brothers in the diaspora. They have been marginalized for way too long. They don't know who they are, right? So I'd say we need to strive to know who exactly we are, what our purpose is in life.
Good.
I think I'll just leave us with that. Thank you so
Sounds
much.
good. I would like, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing this call to happen, letting people learn. I appreciate your
It's
time,
my
and I
pleasure.
know because time is money and time is currency, like you said. I appreciate it, and
Right.
I don't want to ever take it for granted.
And I'd like to say one last thing. I'd like to say that everybody watching should at least endeavor to come to the African continent at least once in their lifetime, because here is the cradle of humanity.
Yep.
You need to come to Africa. Forget about all of those propaganda you see on the media. 80% of them are lies about us.
Yep.
This is where the world begins. This is where all of the resources in the world resides. Virtually all of the resources in the world. We can go on and on. Gold, diamond, cobalt, uranium, ore. Everything comes from here. Your coffee comes from here. Your tea comes from here. Your chocolate comes from here. The cell phone we're using, the device we're using to actually make this conversation or make this call, actually the current battery technology in all of the Teslas you see and all of these things, these raw materials were gotten from Africa. This is where the crude oils come from and all of its byproducts, right? So you need to come to Africa. You need to experience Africa. Contrary to popular opinion, Africa is a very beautiful place. You need to be here. We are ready to welcome you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me again. I really appreciate it, and I'd like to
Right.
catch up with you in the future. But without taking much of your
Cheers.
time, I appreciate it, and I will definitely get you. I would like to get you back on the stream anytime down the line. Whenever you're
Thank
free,
you so much
just
for having me.
appreciate
I'm
it.
very humbled. Thank you so much.
Me
Cheers.
too.
Thanks to
Thank you.
everyone watching. Right.
Appreciate it. Have a great one and
Cheers.
enjoy the rest of your day. We out. Peace.
Stop. Right.
Peace. Deuces. But yeah, chat. Chat. With this, like I said, amazing things happen around the world. Let me go back to this. Let me go. Oh, give me a second. Amazing things that happen around the world. Oh, Lord have mercy. I don't want to. All right, let me fix my camera. With this, amazing things are happening around the world, and obviously, with the days goes by, we look like a lost people. We look like a lost individual and lost things and lost that, and obviously, we just need to learn more about ourselves. Learn more about the world, learn more about ourselves. Open your mind and breathe. Let yourself explore. Let yourself. I want to say let yourself go, but in a moment where you need to learn. And yeah, thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for watching. I'm out. Peace.